Top 10 Miraculous Recoveries. We live during a time of incredible clinical leap forwards. Present-day specialists can make the visually impaired see, regrow, or connect completely dissected organs, or even energize patients who've been in a state of extreme lethargy for quite a while. Notwithstanding, from time to time, prepared clinical professionals go over unconstrained recuperations where the patient had next to zero odds of endurance. Beneath, we will investigate instances of individuals who recuperated even in the wake of confronting certain passings as survivors of mishaps or dangerous conclusions. Here are the main 10 marvelous recoveries. Number 10. A boy who was almost beaten to death. In 2010, a group of 4 grown-up men violently assaulted a 7-year-old kid in Bangladesh. Okoye was playing in his family home when 3 different children moved toward him. These more seasoned children guaranteed Okoye a treat on the off chance that he consented to finish an undertaking with them. He hesitantly concurred and obliged his newly discovered companions. Sooner or later, the kid chose to return to home base. 4 men arose out of close by and snatched him. They requested that he ask for cash from passers-by, which Okoye declined and took steps to tell his dad. His attackers hit his head with an enormous block. Indeed, even as he drained bountifully, the men cut a profound cut into the youngster's middle and damaged his genitalia. They left the kid for dead. Okoye's mom discovered her kid's practically dead body lying in a pool of blood close to a stockroom. Okoye was hurried to the emergency clinic in a cart. In spite of zero odds of enduring his injuries, he figured out how to recuperate following 3 months in the serious consideration unit. Number 9. Sketching gone wrong. In Van Buren, Indiana, and different pieces of the country, it isn't unusual to see teens clutching moving vehicles as they balance their skateboards. This is prominently known as skitching. In 2014, this hazardous movement nearly cost Randon Timmons his life. He was only 18 years of age. While riding on his skateboard, Randon chose to give skitching an attempt. As he held to the quickly moving vehicle, his skateboard hit a pothole in the street. The effect sent Randon noticeable all around prior to hitting his head hard on the pavement. By the time Randon showed up at the medical clinic, he had just about zero cerebrum movement. Because of his head's effect, he endured a limited instance of cerebrum expanding, and specialists needed to eliminate the greater part of his skull. As indicated by the specialists, Randon had an insignificant possibility of enduring the evening. In any case, his family wouldn't abandon him. They remained by the kid's bedside. Phenomenally, the kid's condition immediately improved, and the specialists released him. How the young fellow figured out how to endure this serious cerebrum injury case is a plain instance of clinical marvels. Number 8. A man survived a fall from the 47th story of a building. Alcides and his more youthful sibling Edgar had been washing windows of a tall structure in Manhattan, New York, when they were associated with an awful mishap. The stage they were utilizing to scale to the windows of the structure's 47th floor abruptly broke and exited the sky. The 2 siblings tumbled to the ground. The effect murdered Edgar on the spot. Incredibly, when rescuers showed up at the scene, Alcides was cognizant and sitting up standing in the alleyway. By the time he showed up in the medical clinic, Alcides was scarcely cognizant. He was draining bountifully, and the outputs uncovered the most noticeably awful. He endured an extreme mind injury, had broken a rib, his legs and 1 arm. His spinal line was gravely harmed. The specialists played out a crisis activity regardless of having no expectations that he would endure the mishap. In the following not many weeks, the specialists performed 9 additional procedures on him. They were shocked when Alcides expressed his first words after the mishap. Number 7. A boy who recovered from electrocution. 9-year-old Elijah Belden was commending an early birthday celebration when he had a nearby experience with death. Electric shock nearly cost the little youngster's life after he got a metal shaft on his family house's porch. Belden had gone outside to model for an image with a companion. He incidentally took hold of the round shaft that upheld the outside lighting of the house. Incidentally, the metal construction had become jolted when electrical wires came into contact with its surface. Electricity streaming inside the outside of the shaft shocked Belden, and he blacked out. Elijah phenomenally woke from this extreme lethargy following 10 days of gloom and vulnerability. He actually had his memory flawless and could even hold a discussion with the clinical workforce. Specialists considered his case a supernatural occurrence since he didn't give any indications of injury or mind harm. Inside about 14 days, Elijah was fit for going for a walk outside. After 7 days, the specialists sent him home to recuperate completely. Number 6. A girl who survived 3 severe cancers. Rachel Lozano burned through a large portion of her secondary school years fighting a forceful type of malignancy and Atkins tumor. She went through a few medical procedures, including a bone marrow relocate. The specialists' endeavors took care of when the disease disappeared for the subsequent time. Rachel took her misfortunes and little triumphs in a step. In any case, she was crushed when the specialists educated her that her malignant growth had returned for the 3rd time. In a final desperate attempt, the specialist chose to perform one final endeavor to eliminate the tumor. Thus, they took her to the activity room and started the medical procedure. They were bewildered and totally perplexed subsequent to tracking down that the tumor had phenomenally vanished. There was not so much as a solitary hint of malignant tissue in Rachel's body. They sewed her up without taking any kind of action. Rachel later affirmed that she had gone to Father William Cheminades on her service and petitioned God for recuperating. Number 5. Luke Burgi. In 1998, Pope Francis announced that a 4-year-old kid's recuperation was a wonder. Specialists had analyzed a baffling disease in Luke Burgi that caused episodes of loose bowels. The young man likewise encountered a sharp torment subsequent to ingesting anything. Luke's folks looked for the assistance of the clinical workforce at Denver Hospital, yet they too had no clue about the thing that was ailing the youngster. The kid's condition crumbled continuously. Luke was rapidly shedding pounds. Out of urgency, Luke's mom requested that 2 nuns petition God for her young boy. The nuns obliged and the supplication vigil kept going over 7 days. Then, Luke's PCP concocted a hypothesis that alone a secret tumor could weaken the kid. So they masterminded a colonoscopy test for Luke. Having no other choice, his family took him to the medical clinic for the test. In any case, when they showed up at the specialist's table, Luke had totally mended. At the point when specialists asked what had occurred, the mother clarified how Luke had hopped from his rest and blissfully reported he did not, at this point, felt any agony in his belly. The specialists were wonder-blasted. Numerous individuals were doubtful of the disease's genuineness. Number 4. Elderly woman who survived the H1N1 virus. Leslie Bunning's well-being was quickly falling apart, and her family chose to surge her to an emergency clinic in January 2014. After a couple of tests, specialists affirmed that she had gotten the H1N1 virus. Her condition proceeded to fall apart, and specialists needed to restoratively initiate a state of unconsciousness. They put Leslie in a coma. She remained in the ICU for 10 weeks as specialists made an honest effort to save her life. The solitary thing her family could expect was a miracle. The specialists did everything inside their capacity and information to assist Leslie with breathing her own once more. They even looked for the assistance of different specialists from various emergency clinics. This just demonstrated useless. They started setting up her family to reassess her since there wasn't any expectation that she would endure all alone. Exactly when they were going to converse with her family, Leslie phenomenally started to inhale all alone. The specialists eliminated her from the ventilator and just required taking care of cylinders. Her primary care physicians actually review her case as a clinical marvel. Number 3. Man wakes up after 6 years. Neurosurgeons have since quite a while ago utilized mind incitement to treat different cerebrum injuries and ailments like Parkinson's illness. In any case, this treatment demonstrated vitality for a man who had been in a vegetative state for a very long time after a severe attack. The man's family had tragically missed any desire for the recuperation of their adored one. During the 6 years, the man had not conveyed, gulped, or even made composed body movements. Just as his family considered reassessing, a clinical group chose to embed anodes in his skull to animate the mind. They trusted this incitement would trigger his torpid cerebrum to work once more. What's more, they were correct. The specialists booked him for a medical procedure. The one who had not squinted once in 6 years quickly started to show improvement after the specialists embedded the anodes. Clinical experts had never utilized this sort of treatment to treat mind harm. They were confused when it worked impeccably with this patient. Number 2. Recovery from a stroke. Never in his life had Sam Schmid felt that his life would take the abrupt turn it did in the wake of being associated with an awful fender bender. The mishap occurred in October 2011, and 5 vehicles were included. The vehicle that Schmid was voyaging hit a light post and turned over. Rescuers transported him to the close-by emergency clinic, where he was affirmed to have a messed-up left hand and 2 broken legs. As though this was insufficient for him to manage, specialists later found Schmid endured a serious cerebrum injury. The specialists worked on Schmid, and it brought about a stroke. However, when Robert Spetzler, a neurosurgeon, led a MRI check on Schmid, it didn't uncover any genuine cerebrum harm. In this way, Robert instinctually chose to keep him a little more in a coma. Despite everything, he had the option to recuperate a long time. By December, Sam Schmid had recuperated so well that he could stroll with a walker. Nonetheless, Sam doesn't recall even a solitary piece of the awful mishap that nearly murdered him. Number 1. Abigail Kopf recovered from a headshot. Individuals actually recollect the February 20, 2016 shootout by the Kalamazoo Uber shooter that left numerous individuals dead. From this shootout arose a motivating clinical story. Abigail Kopf was one of the survivors of the shootout. She endured a headshot. It isn't unexpected to know about individuals who have recuperated from gunfire wounds. Notwithstanding, it isn't each day that you know about a 14-year-old young lady who endured a headshot. The specialists were going to collect the young lady's organs when she crushed her mom's thumb on her deathbed. She recuperated in only 3 months, making her story significantly more supernatural and rousing. The way that she made do after a short proximity headshot makes her a motivation to many. Today, Abigail drives the existence of an ordinary young lady regardless of having a couple of versatility challenges.